I want to welcome you on behalf of the University of Florida IFAS Extension Polk County. This is the third installment of our series in Saving Water in the Landscape in 15 minutes. So we're offering here in the month of July a webinar series on saving water in the landscape. And today we're going to be talking about repairs and calibration in regards to your irrigation. Our webinar team consists of Ann Yazelanis. She's our residential horticulture agent and master gardener volunteer coordinator. And I'm Julie Shelb, the Florida Friendly Landscaping coordinator. We also have a couple master gardener volunteers that are helping us with this webinar today. So today we're going to talk about the benefits of a properly functioning irrigation system. We'll look at some basic irrigation repairs and routine maintenance. We'll also look at how to calibrate your irrigation system. And then finally, how to find an irrigation professional, because sometimes we have to look for someone else to help us. Sometimes it's bigger than we can handle. So we'll start off by talking about the benefits of a properly functioning irrigation system. And so when we look at irrigation leaks versus a system that's running well, when we have leaks, certainly we're wasting water. We could also have inconsistent growth of our plants, whether that's our turf grass or our landscape plants. Those plants might also exhibit signs of drought stress or water stress. If we have leaks, maybe that's not allowing the water to reach certain areas, and so those plants are going to be stressed if they require that supplemental irrigation. But when we have a properly functioning irrigation system, we have healthier plants. They're able to thrive. They're less susceptible to pests and disease. We're also using water efficiently, so we're not wasting it. And then in turn, we're protecting our natural resources by not wasting that water or causing excess runoff as well with improper irrigation. And we'll talk about a few of those situations where, irrigation, might lead to runoff. So, part of the benefits of properly functioning or utilizing more efficient irrigation is that we can save water in the landscape. And so by making sure you are installing a rain sensor, you can save around 2,000 gallons per year per 1,000 square feet. Adjusting your irrigation system to water 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch, you can save between 9,000 and almost 20,000 gallons of water. So there's lots of savings to be had by including, these Florida-friendly practices and a properly functioning irrigation system. Installing a soil moisture sensor, you can save lots of water. You can save anywhere from almost 15,000 gallons to 25,000 gallons. You can see by using different types of spray heads, particularly the multi-stream, multi-trajectory. We can also save, around 3,000 gallons. So lots of water can be saved by keeping our system functioning and installing some of these elements. Some easy things that you can do, reducing your irrigation in the winter, skipping a week. Plants and grass, turf grass aren't growing as much during the winter due to the cooler temperatures and the shorter day lengths, and so we don't need as much water. Same thing in the summer when you think about it. With all of this rain, we don't need to water as much either. And so all of that is part of a healthy functioning irrigation system. So now we'll take a look at some irrigation checkpoints, some things you might want to look for in the landscape. First, you might have some misdirected heads. So if you're seeing water on your sidewalk, the road, or even your driveway during or after, or right after, irrigating, you'll need to adjust the sprinklers to prevent spraying on these impermeable surfaces. And so we talked about that runoff. And so when we have misdirected heads, we have water that's falling onto impermeable surfaces that don't allow water to filter down. Instead, that water has to run off. And then therefore that leads to, and there's a lot of pollution associated with that stormwater runoff. So if you end up having a misdirected head, you'll want to adjust the arc or the radius of the sprinkler. This can be done by hand or with a specialized irrigation tool. Sometimes we have broken heads. So if you find a geyser in the yard, that's an indication that you probably have a broken sprinkler, maybe a missing nozzle, even, maybe the pipe itself is broken. So you'll definitely want to turn off the irrigation system. That's step one. And then you'll need to replace the sprinkler if it's broken, or if it's just the nozzle missing, you'll need to replace that. And so you can just unscrew the sprinkler from the PVC pipe that's found underground and attach a new sprinkler or a new nozzle if that's the case. You want to be sure to adjust that new sprinkler to make sure you have efficient watering and you don't take a step back and have misdirected spray onto impermeable surfaces like your sidewalk. You might also encounter clogged filters. And so if you observe one of the sprinklers not throwing water as far, or you notice dead patches or plants or an irrigation, in a particular irrigation zone, you may have a clogged filter. And so to clean the sprinkler filter, carefully remove inside the body of the sprinkler and rinse with clean water. Now there are specialized irrigation tools that help with this process, and those tools may depend on the type of sprayer that you have. You might also encounter an obstructed sprinkler. So sometimes overgrown grass or plant material or other items in the landscape can block a sprinkler or prevent it from popping up. So you'll want to trim back or move any of the obstructions. That way the irrigation system can function properly and that the irrigation will actually reach the distance that it's meant to reach, and you'll have a healthier lawn or landscape, whatever that particular sprinkler is part of. Finally, you'll want to check on your rain shutoff device. So you may have a rain sensor, as you can see there in the top picture, or you may have a soil moisture sensor, which isn't as visible, that's buried slightly underground. And so these rain shutoff devices are designed to interrupt the cycle of an automatic irrigation system controller when a specific amount of rainfall has occurred. All automatic landscape irrigation systems require a rain shutoff device by Florida state law. These rain shutoff devices are pretty valuable in that they save money, they reduce wear on the irrigation system, they also can help reduce disease damage, they can protect our surface and our groundwaters, conserve water, and prevent irrigation after recent rain events. So making sure, one, that you have one, but also periodically checking them to make sure that they're functioning properly is part of a healthy irrigation system. And so I just have a short little video. We're talking about irrigation repairs, and I think it's important that we just take a look at what some of these basic repairs might involve.
What seems to be the problem?
Funny, I was just thinking the same.
Looks like a seal leak to me. A leak like that can add thousands of gallons a month to your water bill. What do you aim to do about it? You got a shovel?
Yes, but,
Now you've got both. The most common but least obvious leaks in a home irrigation system are seal leaks like this one and base breaks. Over time, the seal separating the body and stem of the head wears down and water leaks out when the system fires.
what's a base break? Where did you...
Every sprinkler head in the system has this underground, flexible pipe and a 90-degree fitting where the head attaches. When the fitting breaks, for whatever reason, water will leak from the base underground, flooding that area in the landscape and robbing pressure from the other heads in the zone.
You said the least obvious leaks, but which are the most obvious?
When something or someone crushes or damages a head nozzle, you'll have water shooting straight up into the air at the highest pressure your system can put out. Gallons on gallons on gallons. I say it's an obvious leak, but none of this is really obvious, unless you do a wet check.
A wet check?
At least once a season, you or your irrigation specialist should turn on your system manually and check it while it's running. This is the best way to spot leaks, breaks, and poor coverage before the landscape begins to suffer. Wet checks also reveal problems like this.
Right. I've been meaning to...
You have two options here. You can either raise the head up to where it can water the landscape, or you can put a cap on it.
Put a cap on it?
Put a cap on it.
I don't suppose you... Is there anything else that I should look for during my wet check?
Well, when head filters become clogged with debris, the head pops up, but no water comes out. Remove the nozzle and then check it and the filter for obstructions. Then clean or replace the parts if necessary. In some instances, a zone won't turn on when the timer sends power to the valve.
Valve?
When this occurs, possibilities include a non-working solenoid, severed field wires, or debris inside the valve body. Debris in the valve can also prevent the solenoid from turning off the water. So if you ever encounter a zone running for hours and hours non-stop, it's probably a valve issue.
Wow. I'm really glad I turned my system on today. I cannot thank you enough.
So that was just a quick video to kind of show you some of the basic repair issues that you might encounter in your own irrigation system. One thing I want to mention is that you don't want to forget about your micro irrigation systems. And so frequent inspection is key to maintaining these and keeping them functioning properly. You want to make sure you check for signs of soil that might be extremely dry or extremely wet. Additionally, decline in plant health will also be an indication that maybe part of your micro irrigation system is not functioning properly. You know, it can be difficult to tell if you have a clog, and so you'll definitely want to check the sprayers and the line periodically, especially if you notice plants declining in a specific area. Additionally, you want to be careful with maintenance around your micro irrigation system. Sometimes you might have these micro sprayers, sometimes you might have drip tubing, certainly mowers and other equipment, shovels in particular, if you're doing any planting in the area, can easily damage micro irrigation tubing. And so, you know, just be careful and remember to inspect your micro irrigation as well. We also wanted to cover calibrating your irrigation system. And so to calibrate your irrigation system, you want to place containers randomly within a sprinkler zone, maybe 5 to 10 containers. Run your zone for about 10 minutes. Then you want to measure the water collected in the containers. So you'll need to get, you know, a ruler or a tape measure out, and you'll actually measure how tall the water is in each container. Then you're going to take all those numbers, add them up, and get the average amount. Then, based on that average amount, you can adjust your irrigation system to apply the recommended 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of water per irrigation run. So let's say if after 10 minutes, the average measurement was 1/4 of an inch, you would know you need to run your system for 20 minutes to get 1/2 an inch of water. Again, that 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, you know, that varies. There's that range to help deal with, you know, how much sunlight that area receives, what type of soil, that will all affect, you know, and that's why you're given that range optimal of 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. But that's how you calibrate your system. And finally, we want to talk about irrigation system maintenance. So make sure you turn your irrigation system on. Certainly it comes on, and most often it comes on when we're not out in the yard. You are allowed to go outside, turn your irrigation system on for maybe 10 or 15 minutes to check each zone. And that's what's recommended. Go through each of the zones, flag any trouble spots, maybe leaks, broken heads that might not be popping up. Maybe they have grass growing over them, misdirected sprays that are spraying onto maybe the sidewalk or the driveway. And then you want to make the repairs, either yourself or you might need to contact an irrigation professional. And then go back through, make sure everything is functioning. Be sure to calibrate your sprinkler system, as we just talked about, with, you know, each zone and putting those containers out and measuring how much water, and then adjusting the time to make sure that you're applying the right amount of water. You also want to check your time clock, make any changes that are necessary. And remember, check your rain sensor. If you have an automatic irrigation system, that is required by law. And so you can have a rain sensor or a soil moisture sensor, but some rain shutoff device that is connected to your irrigation system. And then finally, if you're worried that you have a leak, you can turn your water off and then go and check your meter. Make sure you don't have any water running in the house, no sinks, no washing machine or dishwashers. Make sure the irrigation is off and then go check your meter. If you don't have water running, the dial shouldn't be turning, but if everything's shut off and it's still turning, that might be an indication that you have a leak in your system, or potentially somewhere else in the house as well. That's also something to consider. So, sometimes we can make these repairs ourselves, but sometimes you may need to consult an irrigation professional or hire an irrigation professional. And so there are two irrigation societies that you can look for a professional. There's Florida Water Star. And so they have a listing of irrigation professionals that they've certified. And then the Florida Irrigation Society also has a listing of irrigation professionals. And so each of these has the contact information and their location to try to find an irrigation professional that's close to you. Here's a list of resources. So we talked about the benefits of your irrigation system functioning properly. We looked at some basic irrigation repairs and maybe some routine things that you might want to check for. We briefly looked at calibrating your irrigation system and then a few places that you can look for an irrigation professional if needed. I want to thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at IFAS Extension Polk County. You can call us, email, visit our website, or even follow us on social media at Polk Gardening.